Thank you, Mark. Chicago has one of the highest murder rates among teenagers in the country. And a lot of that violence takes place in the housing projects here in Chicago. And the Erickson Institute here in the city has compared kids in these projects in Chicago to kids who live in the war zones of the Middle East and Central America.
In the two settings, in public housing and in the war zones of the world, we often find that children are exposed at very similar rates to shooting of guns. They witness violence on a day-to-day basis. Another comparison that we've made is that children who live in a place like the West Bank feel very strongly about their home, and they believe in staying and fighting for it. When we talk to children in public housing, they often talk about how they want to leave. Children in these settings are losing a lot of their childhood. They can't go out and play. It's too dangerous on the playgrounds.
10-year-old Robert Jones is one of those kids. Last April, he was hit by a stray bullet at the Robert Taylor Homes in Chicago. He is blinded for life. Robert's father, Raymond Fox, joins us this morning, along with Rashawn Young, who is 17 and lives at the Henry Horner Housing Project. Good morning to the two of you.
Good morning.
Rashawn, the study found that it is extremely dangerous for kids growing up in these housing projects. What were you up against?
Well, I was up against gang violence, the possibility of trying drugs, and probably becoming a teenage father. But with the help of my mother and Chicago Commons Mile Square Community Center, I've been able to pull through some of these obstacles that I've been faced with.
How have they kept you out of big trouble?
Well, first of all, my mother, when I was younger, we couldn't go outside. We were not allowed to go downstairs or even around the corners because there's like 3 corners. We had to stay in front of the door so she can keep in constant eye on us because that's how dangerous it was. And by being at the community center, it gave us the opportunity to learn methods, precautionary methods so that we can help ward off or prevent ourselves from becoming drug users or maybe a gang member.
But Raymond, your son was a victim of violence, left blinded by the violence. Was there anything you could have done as a parent to have protected him?
No, not really. I don't look at it, you can't look at it that way, because what's done is done, basically. What you try to do is do something after the fact.
And what is it that you're trying to do now?
Well, we started the Robert Jones Eyes on the Project Foundation, which we would go into the projects and start some programs, literacy programs, Bible classes, after-school classes, and recreational things that we're trying to get together right now. We're in the process. We're this close from really getting it going.
What kind of response have you had, Rashawn, as you've gone in with your own community group trying to make a difference?
Well, the younger ones, they really like it. As you know, we have a literacy program, and I'm an editor for our new magazine, and it's coming out soon. And the kids, they like telling us stories, and they inculcate what's really happening, because we're still in the Henry Horner area, and they inculcate what's really happening in that area to fantasy. Because I don't think that they want to really tell about, the drastic conditions that they're living in, so they take it and they make it into some kind of fiction. But it's nice, and when you read it, you read into it and you see the problems that they're going through. But we have a big response, and it's going well, and I'm glad that I can help some younger ones as I was helped.
Raymond, you say you're very close to having a group really make a difference. What's keeping you from achieving what you want to achieve?
Well, basically sponsorship, because this is pretty much independent. And we're going off into, I don't have any federal funds, nothing like that to work with. And so we're going to the business community, asking to help us sponsor these things that we need. And they've been pretty responsive. I wish they'd be a little more responsive and actually give some money, per se. But I have no problem with knowing for a fact that with a little determination on my part and a few other people that in the next week and a half or so, we will have it'd be a big difference over there in terms of for the children themselves.
We wish you both a lot of luck in trying to make the project safer for your children. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let's go back to Harry right now.
It's 15 minutes after the hour. Coming up, the famed Steppenwolf Theater and lots more from Chicago.
The film opened in more than 800 theaters across the country, and violence broke out in at least 8 states. At a Los Angeles movie mall, gunfire began just as the lights went out, inside a theater and on a street outside. Moviegoers heard it in the parking lot and tried to leave.
We were stuck in there, and the people who were shooting the guns were on foot, and they wouldn't let us out. And the only reason they let us out was because we started beeping the horns.
It was pandemonium, a woman said, even though sheriff's deputies had been there from the beginning, worried it would be a violent night.
Well, we know that one person was shot in the buttocks, one person was shot, received a gunshot wound to the knee, and the third person was shot in an ankle.
In all, at least 6 people were injured by gunfire in Southern California. Others hurt when knives or guns were drawn in suburban New York and Ohio, Minnesota, Texas, Wisconsin, and Massachusetts. In Illinois, a man was killed. However, Columbia Pictures today said just a handful of theaters had canceled showings of the movie. The company said it would pay for extra security if theater owners requested it.
This is Los Angeles, gang capital of the nation.
Critics had praised Boys in the Hood about growing up in a gang-ridden neighborhood of Los Angeles. They called the movie anti-violent, but some pointed out ads for the film didn't make it seem that way. Today, director John Singleton said it wasn't his movie that caused last night's trouble.
I mean, what happened last night was more of an indication of the degeneration of American society than a reflection upon my film.
Still, it was the second time this year that violence accompanied the opening of a major motion picture. In March, the movie was New Jack City, and some theatergoers today were thinking about that.
It sort of makes me a little weary, to go to the theater.
And that's a big worry for an industry built on the premise that entertainment, even based on harsh reality, is supposed to be a safe diversion. Richard Roth, CBS News, Los Angeles.
They call Gil Walker the commissioner. It's an unlikely title for a man who runs an unusual basketball league. The games are played in the middle of the night.
Midnight basketball league. We call it midnight basketball league. Well, that's where most crimes are committed, between hours of 10 to 2.
That's the 5 shot against the 5 skill. Let's match up. Let's go.
There's more to this than just basketball.
This just being the hook to get them in the gym.
Everybody in a circle.
We have mandatory workshops after each game. That's where we give them the gospel, if you will, according to Gil Walker.
Gil Walker preaches his gospel in one of the worst neighborhoods of Chicago. He's looking for converts among the hopeless and the criminals and the gang members in Chicago's housing projects.
I've been arrested for drug dealing, auto thefts.
Brian Blakely and Ronnie Miller grew up in the Henry Horner housing projects.
I've been in trouble with the gang members getting shot and stuff.
Where did you get shot?
I got shot right here. I just went in and out, but my buddy, he died. He got shot in the brain, shot through the head, so.
How many of you guys going into your second year in the program, been here 2 years? Come on, raise your hand.
It's not enough to learn basketball. Members of the league also have to get job training.
If you ain't got a job, you got to be in 1-hour training programs, okay? You ain't gonna just play 5 years in the Midnight Basketball League.
And they get lessons in life.
If no one ever showed them how to clean their fingernails, why do we think they should know how? If no one ever showed them properly how to brush their teeth, why should we assume that they know how?
You working, man? You been looking for a job? Yeah. Where you been looking? Where you been looking?
Since I got out of school.
Where? Where?
Nowhere really.
Nowhere really, right. Okay.
Well, when Midnight Basketball League first started, we all thought it was a big joke, but then when we finally got involved in it, it really helped us. It kept us away from the bad activities that we was doing.
No fouls!
These guys, when we first opened up the program, they stand there with guns in their pants. If you want to come in here, go take your gun and go home. Then come back and we'll play some basketball.
Do people expect you to cure the gang problem by playing basketball?
Sure. Sure. And I expect to cure the problem by playing basketball.
You don't really?
Oh, yeah, I do.
You don't really expect to cure the gang problem and the drug problem and all that problem with basketball,
I think that everyone who is involved in this social war, if you will, okay, has to feel that they got the answer to it.
If it weren't for the basketball league, where do you think you guys would be during the hours that now you're playing basketball?
Either dead or in jail.
You could be standing out on the street corner selling drugs, or you might be standing out on the street corner waiting for a lady to come by with a purse or anything. There's so much negative that you can get into during that time.
60 of Gil Walker's players, including Brian, now have jobs.
It's almost like trying to drain the ocean. You got to start by putting a spoon here. And everybody needs to put those spoons in the ocean and start to drain. I have to think that each and every one of these guys are going to make it.
I hope that when the lights go out that they do the right thing. I think most of them will. I really do.
What's the standard of success? How do you know if what you're doing is working?
Well, they're still alive.
Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, Chicago.